What's up, guys? We are back to do some NFL content, but don't worry, my MLB picks for today are in the pinned comment below and also in a community post every day. In this video, we are going to break down each team in the NFC South, and I will give you my early Week 1 bets for their games. Before we jump into these breakdowns, do me a big favor and hit that like button, guys. It only takes 1 second and helps out the channel a ton. If you like these videos, go ahead and subscribe. It's 100% free and can notify you about new videos and anytime we go live. Our videos are sponsored by StumpTheSpread.com. Click the link in the description and go over there and join our free email list and check out our top confidence plays on all the major sports, including NFL preseason premium content. Get in there now for maximum value. Comment below with what you think about these teams or anything that you see coming for this NFL season or any questions you have about the MLB games today. We respond to every single comment, so let us know anything you want to say about my picks, these videos, or anything you see here. Now, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at the Atlanta Falcons, who come into the season with a lot of changes here. I mean, we see head coach Raheem Morris is going to be his first full season after being the interim head coach for the last 11 games of 2023, but guys, that's not a very big change. Not nearly as big of a change as you need to, turn things around for a team that was 7-10 last year and missed the playoffs. They are hoping that bringing in Kirk Cousins here in one of the splashiest moves of the offseason will be, what can make them an actual good team and help catapult them from close to the bottom of the NFC South to, they're hoping, the actual top. They made a really weird move after signing Cousins by drafting Michael Penix Jr. to be his backup or to develop behind Cousins, or for some unknown reason, kind of feels like a wasted draft pick. If you're going to go out and sign Cousins, I think you should have probably spent that pick on something to shore up the defense or the offensive line or something like that, but we'll see what happens. I mean, looking at the other, key offensive players for this team, guys, I'm expecting big things from Drake London and Kyle Pitts this season. I mean, with Cousins at the helm, that should definitely help, and Robinson there is in a spot where he could be an absolute monster in the ground game if new offensive coordinator Zach Robinson can give him the ball in good situations. So yeah, that's going to be the real questions here, to see how Cousins can, come back from that Achilles injury, if he can be durable out there, if he can, carry the load for this offense, do a good job distributing the ball. I don't expect him to be very mobile, not that he ever really was, though. I don't think that's a big part of this team's plan. I do think the running game is going to be very important for the Falcons again this season, and we need that offensive line to be solid. So honestly, overall, I think I like what they've done, except for that weird situation there with drafting another quarterback for no reason. Generally speaking, though, I still have some question marks about what we're going to see from Cousins here, at least right out of the gate. Coming back from Achilles injury at his age, and just any time in general in an athlete's career, can be a little bit tricky. So we'll see what we get from this offense. We'll also be taking a look at this defense, guys, coming in under the first-year defensive coordinator Jimmy Lake. It's his first season here as the defensive coordinator for the Falcons. I mean, it was a huge issue for the Falcons a season ago, guys. Their defense was very, very bad. They had one of the worst pass rushes in the league, but they think they can shore that up with the addition here of James Smith-Williams and the help of rookie outside linebacker Braylon Trice. So that's, it can only get better. It can really only get better. This pass rush was really, really bad a season ago. Obviously, that is going to be key for them to find success on the defensive side of the ball. It looks like there are going to be a lot of moving parts in the preseason for this unit, so we're going to find out a lot over the course of the exhibition slate of, maybe not how good they're really going to be when the games count, but at least who's going to be ending up in those starting spots. And I do think they're likely to be better this season defensively than they were a year ago, although that doesn't take much. So yeah, we'll see what we get from them. Overall, what am I expecting from this defense? I would say middle of the road would definitely be something they would take. I think they could be okay. I don't think they're going to be amazing, though. I don't think this is going to be a plus level defense. So we'll see how they look in their first game of the season, guys. In week 1, we've got the Steelers going on the road to take on the Atlanta Falcons, and the Falcons are actually 2.5-point favorites in this game, which a little bit shocking to me. The odds makers pretty high on Kirk Cousins apparently, and just high on this Falcons team in general. So we'll see what we get here in week 1. The Steelers have a lot of questions to answer over the course of the preseason, so we'll see where they're at in their quarterback situation. Generally speaking, though, a Mike Tomlin team, I kind of expect them to be ready to go here. Seems like a tough spot for the Falcons to be favorites in this game, to be honest, but a lot of question marks still for me about the Steelers. I do not have a great read on what to expect from this team. So taking the Steelers at plus 2.5, not super appealing. Taking the Falcons at minus 2.5, also not something I'm in love with, at least at the moment. We've got an over-under of 43 in this game, and I do think we're going to see a good amount of running from both of these teams. So you could definitely talk me into an under 43 in this spot. We need the Falcons defense to get a little bit better, but I think regardless, we're going to see the Falcons offense struggle against that Steelers solid defense. So yeah, generally speaking, I really don't have a great lean on the side. Maybe I'm talking myself now into the Steelers plus 2.5 on the road. And at the under 43, though, that seems pretty reasonable to me. Next up, guys, we're looking at the Carolina Panthers, who come into this season very ready to forget that last season ever existed, guys. We've got first-year head coach Dave Canales. It's his first season here as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, and they are hoping that he can turn things around for a team. Like I said, 2-15 on the season last year, not having their best time. There's a lot of buzz out there that Bryce Young is already a bust, but it's going to be pretty interesting to see what Canales is able to do here with this young quarterback who, honestly, guys, has a lot of talent. Obviously, there are question marks about him, no doubt about that. That is, pretty well documented, but I do think there's still a chance for this guy. I'm not willing to call him a bust yet. Bringing in Deontay Johnson and rookie Xavier Legette will definitely give a big boost to this wide receiver core and give Young some legitimate targets there, in addition to Adam Thielen, who had a sneaky good 2023 for a very, very bad team. So yeah, I think he deserves a little bit more credit, a little bit more shine than he really got. But hey, when you're playing for a team that's only going to win 2 games and is pretty much tanking out the end of the season and pretty much tanking out their entire season, you're not going to get that much attention, I suppose. The offensive line is supposed to be getting better, and there could be some talent coming out of the backfield, so running the ball should be more of an option for them this season. And obviously, Bryce Young is a guy that's supposed to be running the ball a bit himself, so lots of reason to be hopeful here if the offensive line can kind of round into form, and most importantly, guys, if we can see some positive developments out of Bryce Young. I don't think young quarterbacks get very long to prove themselves, so if he has another bad season, he could be looking at a very short career. So a lot of pressure on him for this one. I hope he can stay healthy and he gets a legitimate shot to show what he can do out there. So we'll see what we get from this Carolina Panthers offense. Not really expecting miracles. We'll also see what we get from this defense, guys. We got a second-year defensive coordinator now. The Panthers, one of the worst defenses in the NFL last season. The secondary has more questions than answers right now, and generally speaking, they just don't appear to have improved enough to make me think this defense is going to get itself out of the cellar, guys. Just not a defense that I feel good about. A lot of bad, just empty spots. Who do we think is going to end up in there? No idea. Guys that I've never heard of on this defense, just not a lot of positive things. They didn't make a lot of improvements that I can see on this defense, and yeah, just not going to be a unit that slows down their opponents too much. So looking at their week 1 matchup, it's going to be interesting to see how they can do against an NFC South opponent in the New Orleans Saints. We got the Panthers going on the road to take on the Saints, who are 4.5 or 5-point favorites in this game. We've got an over-under of only 40.5 in this one as well. In terms of the side in this one, we're about to go over the Saints, so we'll see how we feel about that one. Generally speaking, I would lean maybe a bit towards the Saints, but 4.5 kind of seems like a lot for a game that I could see being, separated by only a field goal, especially if we do see some improvement from the Panthers defense, although I'm not really holding my breath for that. I guess the big question is, what are we going to get out of Bryce Young going up against what has historically been a decent Saints defense? But yeah, we're just going to have to see, guys. A lot of question marks on this game. In terms of the over-under, I would maybe shade a little bit towards the over. That's a pretty small number out there. But yeah, generally speaking, let's hold our horses on this one and see what we're thinking about the New Orleans Saints, who come into this season, guys, under Dennis Allen. It's going to be his 3rd season there for the Saints as their head coach. Last year, they went 9-8 and missed the playoffs. They definitely had their chances. The dream is here that they can get back on the right track, though. Bringing in Clint Kubiak as the new offensive coordinator is giving Saints fans a lot of reason to hope for better stuff from Derek Carr. And honestly, guys, Carr was really good at the end of the season. It doesn't get talked about that much, but he was really looking a lot better there at the end of the year than he did at the beginning. Obviously, if you want to be a high-level NFL quarterback, you're going to need to be putting together full seasons. Just looking decent there at the end of the year isn't going to be enough. But he's shown over the course of his career that he can be pretty good out there. And having Olave and Alvin Kamara out there as premier offensive weapons should definitely make this offense capable of doing some positive things. But still a lot of question marks after a season where they couldn't find a way to win the NFC South. Carr was great down the stretch, like I said, and that is definitely giving this whole fan base some hope. Obviously, they're going to need to see solid play from their offensive line. Carr, not the most mobile guy out there. There's always the chance of them, throwing some weird mucking wrenches in there, with all kinds of different, offensive schemes and stuff like that, and running some cool trick plays and, weird offenses there with Taysom Hill under center. So we'll see what we get out of them. Overall, how do I feel about this offense? Generally speaking, I think if they can run the ball, some good things could happen for them. Just not an offense that I'm super high on unless we see Derek Carr just coming out of the gates looking amazing. In terms of their defense, guys, we've got Joe Woods out there for his 2nd season as the Saints defensive coordinator. The secondary does give us significant reason to think they could be good on that side of the ball, at least in terms of stopping the pass, but it's not all sunshine and roses out there, guys. This team has a very weak defensive line, and the additions that they made don't really get me all that excited, although picking up Chase Young on a 1-year contract could be helpful. We'll see what we get from this defense overall. Not really holding my breath necessarily. I don't know if they're going to be better than last year, but I mean, last year they were pretty decent. They were the 8th best defense in the NFL in terms of points against, so that's not awful. That's not bottom of the barrel, although, you know, when you get to play against the NFC South, not that tough of a, you know, situation there for you. You should have a relatively decent number. So looking at the numbers for their week 1 game here, we've got the Panthers going on the road to take on the Saints. After breaking down the Saints, guys, I do kind of tend to lean towards the Saints at -4.5 or 5. I do think this defense is, you know, poised to hold the Carolina Panthers in check there, unless we see some miracle stuff out there from Bryce Young, which I'm not really expecting there. I do think we'll see a good start to the season from Derek Carr and friends, you know, getting to go up against a pretty weak opponent. And, you know, with the Saints having a good secondary, if they can force a turnover or two, that should put them in a good position. So, yeah, taking the Saints at -4.5 doesn't seem terrible to me. In terms of the over-under of a 40.5, I do tend to lean a little bit towards the under the impression that the Saints, you know, the Saints defense will be able to shut down that Carolina Panthers attack. But overall, I think my favorite spot in this one is probably the Saints -4.5. Last but not least, here in the NFC South, guys, we're looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They come into this season under their 3rd year, guys, under Todd Bowles. Yeah, last year, pretty crazy deal for the Buccaneers, guys. 9-8 on the season, so not a great season-long record. They did win the NFC South, but then they beat the Eagles there in the wild card game in an absolute blowout. They did then lose to Detroit in the divisional round, but winning a playoff game was not something a lot of people had in the cards there for the Buccaneers. There have been some changes, though, not really for the best either. I mean, losing their offensive coordinator, Dave Canales, can't be amazing for Baker Mayfield, who now has a big contract to fall back on, but still has, you know, he's got some of his favorite weapons, and with Mike Evans and the idea that Chris Godwin is going to be more productive out of the slot than he was from the edge, I think that could be, you know, nice for them. I don't think this offense is going to take a big step back. I think Mayfield is not going to, like, lose motivation after getting that big contract. Like, he is a big chip on the shoulder guy. I think he's going to be getting after it out there. Is he one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL? I do not think so. Does he deserve to be paid that way? I mean, he's not getting paid like the best quarterbacks in the NFL, so I'm fine with it. I'm fine with the Baker Mayfield contract. It's a lot better to have Baker Mayfield out there, a known quantity, than, you know, just gambling it up on who you're going to possibly end up with under center. You want to have a known commodity out there under center for you to start the season. There's lots of talk about how this offense overachieved last year, and maybe they did, but even so, running it back in the NFC South doesn't sound like the most insane idea I've ever heard. So yeah, this offense pretty much standing pat doesn't really bother me. I'm expecting decent stuff from them this season, especially in, you know, some of their weaker matchups. In terms of their defense this year, we've got Todd Bowles as the head coach and defensive coordinator. That's, you know, what it's being listed as right now. So yeah, not expecting the defense to take a big step back, guys. A lot of question marks in the secondary. I worry about their ability in general to stop the pass, but all that being said, this was a good defensive team a season ago, and we don't see a ton of changes, so there's reason to think this unit probably won't be falling off a cliff. I mean, the defensive line ranked in the bottom half of the league. That doesn't really fill me with confidence, but I do think they could show some slight improvements there, and if they do, this is right back there being a decent defense. I mean, 7th in the NFL in points allowed last year, not exactly a defense that, you know, sounds like a disaster to me. They do a good job of keeping their team in games. They can make up for some of those Baker Mayfield mistakes, although he wasn't making too many of them a season ago, so no real reason to think he's going to be making a crap load of them this year. In terms of their week 1 matchup, guys, they get a pretty decent matchup. We've got the Washington Commanders coming into Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers, who are 3.5-point favorites in this game. We've got an over-under of 41.5. Generally speaking, guys, I do think this is a decent spot for the Buccaneers to get their season off to a good start. I don't think that many people are going to be excited about them. I'm hearing a lot of buzz around the Washington Commanders, so, you know, maybe things will change a lot for the Commanders, but maybe also they will not. I do think the Buccaneers are going to be a better team than people expect, so taking them -3.5 here in week 1 does not sound like a disaster. In terms of the over-under, I do think you could maybe take a look at over 41.5. I think we could see a good amount of scoring in this game. I mean, the Buccaneers are a team that's more than willing to throw it. They're obviously more than willing to run it too, so don't get me wrong on that, but I do think Washington is capable of scoring points as well, but they're also capable of giving up a lot of points. So yeah, over is probably my lean in this one, as well as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers -3.5. That's everything we have for the NFC South, guys. Hit that like button for good luck on all of your bets, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Let me know in the comments any NFL questions that you have. Don't forget to check out the community post and the pinned comment for my daily MLB predictions. Thanks for watching. You can click the link in the description to check out stumpthespread.com, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for more sports betting action.